it's getting close. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 1999!
This is the day you have trained for, the day you have studied for. Utilize your superior skills, your superior intelligence.
Sit down, rodent!
Sarah, baby? Oh, you were one fly.
Don't make me hurt you.
Learn to defeat your ruthless enemy, Steve of Hackensack.
Ryan, you're gonna get roofed.
Shut up, quadruped.
SEGA Dreamcast. It's thinking.
Subject B, Evil Hedgehog. Introducing Shadow from Sonic Adventure 2. Now you can choose to be Sonic, the good hedgehog, and try to save the world, or Shadow, the evil hedgehog, and conquer it. What kind of hedgehog are you?
A game? Father! Keep friends. Those you love. No! An emergence of a true, fully interactive game. Step into another reality. Shenmue.
Discipline the radio. Headquarters.
Estás prevista. Llamo.
Groovy jest music. Boss is the states.
We have everything you need to live the young, hip, jet grind radio lifestyle. You skate, you groove, you bomb bricks, and run from the man.
This Grand Radio on Dreamcast, Verity 14.
何が起こるかわからない。シェンムー2。
G Game Master 16.
Okay, we all know there are tons of iconic games from the PlayStation consoles and the Xbox consoles, but Sega had their hand in a console game during the 80s and 90s, such as the SG-1000 in 1983, Master System in 1985, the Sega Genesis in 1988, Game Gear in 1990, the Sega CD in 1991, the Sega Pico in 1993, the 32X in 1994, the Sega Saturn in 1995, and the Sega Nomad in 1995 also, etc. One console that is the most recognized out of all the Sega consoles is the Sega Dreamcast. Well, that console was short-lived for the most part because Sega did not have a well thought out plan on what the Dreamcast was capable of for the future. As a result, when it was released in 1999, the popularity only lasted for 2 years until it got completely overshadowed by the Xbox and PlayStation 2. This whole misfire can be summed up in only 3 words: mismanagement, costly, and relevancy. The question for this is, why didn't they just try to compete with the PlayStation 1 in 1995 by introducing the Dreamcast then, instead of introducing it 4 years later when gaming companies were getting bolder in attitude and technology? That question can be answered another time in a broader video about it addressing the subject. Right now, I want to bring attention to the top 5 games that came out from the discontinued Sega Dreamcast and how each of them stand on their own as unique experiences. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share this video to get this video to beat the YouTube algorithm, and leave a comment on your thoughts on the video on whether you want list type videos or these type videos where I list off games and go into detail about each of them. Again, let me know in the comments. Okay you guys, you know the drill. Let me be silent on the introductions and let's get to the countdown. Number 5, D2.
I spoke with this Norwegian hunter in a tavern, and he said even rabbits and mice have killer instinct.
You can't get enough of survival horror games, can we? This game, D2, is a survival horror game like Resident Evil and Parasite Eve was developed and published by Warp in Japan and published by SEGA in North America. D2 was written and directed by Kenji Ino, who wrote D2's predecessor, the original D and Enemy Zero. The plot follows Laura Parton, a young woman riding an airplane until a group of terrorists hijack the plane, while a passenger on the plane, David, turns out to be an FBI agent that's going to stop the terrorists. But, as the terrorists have a wizard doing a mysterious cult-like chant, the plane is hit by a meteorite and crashes into the Canadian wilderness. It's plainly Resident Evil, but different in plot, that has the same mechanics like an RPG survival with finding items like first aid, and supplies, and food. But then is also a first-person arcade gallery shooter like House of the Dead, Cyber Driver, and Star Trek Voyager, and many other ones that were popular around this time, where there's a fixed camera angles on enemies for extra adrenaline. Number 4. Sonic Adventure 2.
Way to destroy it
Isn't
inside.
that a Chaos Emerald?
It looks like it, doesn't it? But in fact, it's a fake one I created after researching the real emerald. It has the same wavelength and properties.
Hope you're ready to go fast with Sonic and Shadow and Sonic Adventure 2. Man, this game is actually the most requested to have a remaster with improved graphics and gameplay from SEGA for a fun fact. With this first 3D platformer, the developer was Sonic Team USA and the publisher was SEGA! The director of the game was Takashi Iizuka and the producer was Yuji Naka, as they worked on this game as a sequel to Sonic Adventure from 1998. The game was released in Europe, North America, and Japan in 2001. Sonic Adventure 2's plot was adapted to the Sonic X anime from 2003 to 2006, and was also adapted to the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie from 2024, where Sonic has to stop Dr. Eggman and his ultimate weapon, Shadow the Hedgehog. But there's something more to Shadow than meets the eye. The gameplay is pretty basic Sonic gameplay for Sonic's first 3D game sequel, but is given a pass for it being the first of the 3D early Sonic games. As it stands, this is a great sequel to the previous game, and Sonic fans still hold this game in high regard as a must-play in the Sonic franchise. Number 3. Jet Set Radio.
This is headquarters to motorcycle units. Headquarters to motorcycle units. Capture the suspect at all costs.
Pump up the beat and skate on the rails and buildings as we ride on the streets. Jet Set Radio was a unique skating game made by Smilebit, while the director was Masayoshi Kikuchi and the producers were Takayuki Kawagawa and Osamu Sato. The game was released in 2000 in Japan, North America, Europe, and Australia. The unique thing about this game is that it uses a cel-shaded art style with 3D polygons for exaggerated, cartoonish character designs and a bright and colorful city environment. This game has a really simple plot in that the evil Okaku Corporation, headed by Captain Unishima, with the corrupt police, is trying to subdue the team protagonists, and it's up to the Grace and Glory Gang to stop them from ruining their town. The gameplay revolves around skating in the streets and spraying graffiti on different things for different objectives. It's a very unique game and expresses what the Dreamcast could do in very stylized game graphics. Number 2. Shenmue.
Are those guys sailors?
Maybe.
I'm looking for sailors who work with Chinese ships.
What are you, some kind of TV detective or something?
Back off.
You little punk. You looking for some of this? You stupid!
Let's kick and punch the thugs like it's a 1980s karate street movie. Shenmue was an action-adventure, life simulation, interactive cinema, and social simulation game developed by SEGA AM2, now Shibuya Productions, and published by SEGA. It was the first open-world type game that was made in 1999. The technology at the time was very impressive, as it was the first time the developers could make faces move from the eyes to the mouth with new software they used. Along with that, letting players interact with the world in real time with a real-time clock system, while you can go into a shop and buy items or go into an arcade and play the games. You can also pick up items and be given a full 360-degree view of the item, do a forklift job, and get paid in-game currency. and train with specific masters to develop your skills. The only old feature about this game is that you have to wait a specific time before a certain story event takes place, and it will start to get tedious. The game was released in Japan on December 29, 1999, November 8, 2000 in North America, and December 1, 2000 in Europe. The story is set in Japan and plays out like a 1980s martial arts movie where Ryo, the main character, tries to get revenge on a man named Lon D, who killed his father and has to go through a variety of tasks to catch him. It's pretty nuts, but it's still a cheesy and fun experience, especially in the voice acting because the voices did not age well.
About sailors?
They don't come to shop. Their main purpose is to hit the bars in Dobuita. They stagger by here on their way back.
Idio! Do you know any place where sailors hang out?
Sailors? Yeah, I do. They hang out at bars. They always start street fights when they're drunk, you know. I can't stand them, man.
Yo, dude!
Oh, you.
Seem a bit blue, my man? Got a problem? Then I'm your man!
Yeah, right.
Also, this game implemented QuickTime events to further immerse the player in whatever was happening on the screen. Ryo has to react to avoid or interact with things with one of the buttons. Even though QTEs are heavily frowned upon today, it can still be implemented into games for immersion, if it is done right and not overdone.
Hey, you! Hey, stop! Damn!
Hey, what are you doing? Hey, wait!
What the? Get out of my way!
You okay?
Yes.
Overall, Shenmue was great for the time and evolved the technology on how a future open world and action adventure game title should be made. Number 1. Shenmue 2.
May the gods be with you. Oh, alright, you win.
The adventure continues for the hunt of Lon D with more street brawls, better QuickTime events, and now locations in the new Shenmue. The developer is the same from SEGA AM2, and the developer is the same from SEGA themselves. All the gameplay and aesthetics are still there from the original game, but it's in a different environment and a different atmosphere as the game takes place in China. As I said before, the gameplay has the same beats of searching in a town, interacting with the town, getting into brawls, doing QuickTime events, learning things from masters, and following objectives. The improvements that are remotely noticeable are the graphics and a few gameplay tweaks, but that's not really saying much. It introduces new characters like Joy, Shu Ying, Wang, Ren, Shenhua, Shenhuan, Huan, and Dongyu. The gameplay had a few new additions like failing the QuickTime events lead to other branching story paths, can choose different questions to ask non-playable characters, QTEs adding more combo button commands like this one here.
Jump over there. Are you out of your mind? Move back! No, don't! Come on!
Earn money by getting part jobs or trying to gamble to make cash, play more retro games, and implementing cinematic QTE events and free battles. Overall, this game was a commercial failure in sales like its predecessor, but it was an improvement from the first game by enhancing the gaming experience. It still has its fans, and it's still up in the air of whether the franchise will continue or not. But we'll see. These games were the most innovative for the time they came out, and experimented with how they could improve games to intrigue players. On the Dreamcast, it stood out from every console at that time, but was discontinued in a short period of time due to poor management. Hope you liked the Dreamcast game countdown, and remember to subscribe, like, and share the video, and remember to keep your chill rate 100. See you next time.